Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm going to be showing you all the books that I've read in July this year. So I read 9 books in total this month, and some of them were really good books. Let's just get right into this video. First, I want to talk about the Dreamland Billionaire series. I loved every single book. The first book in the series was The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. This is about the younger brother. There are the Kane brothers. This one's about Rowan, and he meets this girl called Zara. Their grandfather passed away, and for each of them to get part of their inheritance and a percentage of the company, they have to do these tasks that are difficult for them. His first task was to go to Dreamland, basically, and oversee the company for 6 months, I'm pretty sure. And in the process, he meets this girl called Zara. I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars, obviously. The second book of the series is Terms and Conditions, and this book follows the older brother called Declan, and his task is to marry somebody and have a kid with them. And his secretary jumps in to help him, basically, and it follows the story of both of them. The secretary's name is Iris, by the way. I forgot to mention that. But I also gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. I have like so much attachment to this series because it was so good. The final book of the series is Final Offer, which is about the middle brother. I'm pretty sure he's the middle brother, whose name is Callahan, but in the book they call him Cal. And his task is basically to sell the lake house. He goes to the town and he re-encounters himself with Alana, which was his first love. I do have to say, I do get why a lot of people like this book rather than the two of them, because I love this book myself. If I had to pick either one, I would definitely pick this one. Obviously love this, and I obviously gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. So if you haven't seen the first video that I made about all the books that I've read in June, I was reading Maybe Someday, and it is a series by Colleen Hoover. So I read the 1.5 book, which is like really pretty small. So this is Maybe Not by Colleen Hoover, and if you haven't read the first one, Maybe Someday, it's basically about this guy named Ridge and this girl named Sydney, and the apartment that Ridge lives in is Warren, and then the roommate Bridget, and it follows their relationship and stuff like that. Pretty really small book. I literally finished it in one day. It's like 120 pages. So I did give it a 4 out of 5 stars just because I just thought it was like a small cute book and stuff like that. And then the last book of the series is Maybe Now. Personally, for me, it obviously follows again with Sydney's and Bridget's relationship. It also follows Maggie, and if you've read Maybe Someday, then you know what I'm talking about if you read this book as well. It felt like I was reading the first book still, because it literally says picking up right where Maybe Someday left off, so it just feels like the prolonged version of the first book. Like, this book did come with a brand new chapter, and I guess the last chapter did tie it all in. I mean, I still liked it. I still give it a 5 out of 5 stars. Next is You've Reached Sam by Dustin Thau. It's about this girl named Julie and this guy named Sam, and they fall in love, but tragically Sam dies, and she calls him one last time and he picks up. I didn't cry as much as I thought I was going to, because a lot of people said that it was a very sad book and they cried. I obviously felt pretty sad, but not to the point where I'm in tears. At some part of the story it didn't click with me, so that's why I give it a 4 out of 5 stars, but it was still a pretty good book for me. Next book I read was One Day in December by Josie Silver. I loved this book so much. I'm not the one for cheating tropes. Other than that, this book was pretty good. This book follows this girl called Lori, and she basically sees this guy at a bus stop. She was in the bus, and then the guy's name is Jack. She sees him, and she basically has flutter. She has butterflies. She gets butterflies, and she does like everything to try and find this guy. But then later, 2 years or a year later, her best friend and roommate Sarah brings over a guy, and that guy was Jack, the guy at the bus stop. And this book follows literally the journey of all of those three for like 10 years. 10 years! And it was like, this book was like such a roller coaster. And I obviously gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. The next book was my first fantasy book that I've ever read, and I'm pretty sure you guys already know what I'm talking about. Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I don't know how you pronounce her last name. This is a lot to unpack because it was my first fantasy book, and I am also planning on reading the second book. I already pre-ordered it, and as well as the Akatar series. I really want to read those. I love this book. Now I know. Now I get the hype about like fantasy books and all that stuff. This was the it book of the month for me. Like, I don't know how to explain it without like spoiling it for you guys. It's basically about this girl called Violet. There's like a lot of characters in the book, but the main characters of the book, I would say it's Violet and Xaden. Xaden. Oh, I just can't. I don't have words. Like, this book left me speechless. If you haven't read this book, please read it, because it will get you into fantasy books. And I obviously gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. The last book of this month was The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This was also like a wow book to me, because there's a lot to unpack when you read this book. Like, a lot of like real life situations that can potentially happen. It's basically about Evelyn Hugo herself. She hires this journalist, I would say. Her name is Monique, and she basically hires her so she can like tell her story about like everything ever since she was like a kid till like till now. So Monique is the one who potentially tells Evelyn Hugo's life story. But if you see this book and you're interested, I recommend you to read all the books that I've mentioned in this video. But wow, 5 out of 5 stars, obviously. These are all the books that I've read in July. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe for more videos like these, and I will see you guys in next week's video. Bye!